My friend found peace on a toilet during a turbulent storm at 30,000 feet. He was traveling to Japan, a long flight, but misfortune struck. He came down with a terrible case of diarrhea, which turned the situation into a claustrophobic sitcom of sorts. 13. That's how many times he had to crawl over his neighboring passengers. Yes, he had the window seat. And 13 may sound excessive, but it's the number of a true hero. A man with an unbreakable anal sphincter. Nearing the end of the flight, he found himself stuck to the bowl in a particularly foul bout with his intestines. At the exact same moment, the plane began to shake. Turbulence, the violent kind. The world was falling apart. And then the airline played a landing song. A delicate violin piece, beautiful, serene, like something from a coming-of-age movie or a tasteful funeral. And there he was, 30,000 feet in the air, plane trembling, violins weeping overhead, entirely occupied with not exploding. He wasn't afraid of death. He wasn't thinking about his life. He wasn't in the past or the future. Just here. I wasn't scared. I just wanted to finish before we landed. There's a deep spiritual truth somewhere in my friend's story. It reads almost like a Zen koan, a moment so absurd it's holy. Spiritual but completely spontaneous. Divine surrender, grace. It doesn't just come in the form of mantras or teachings. Sometimes it comes in the form of turbulence, a toilet, and a full acceptance of the inescapable, impending agony. And had the plane crashed in that moment, I'm sure my friend would have felt entirely calm. It was the end of suffering. And this is Buddhism in a nutshell. Most people know that the Buddha advertised letting go of desire, and so people try, in their ways, to quiet the mind and escape its grasp. They meditate, they cite obscure Indian teachers, they sit retreats. But have you ever realized that by trying to get rid of desire, you've already set off the trap? A desire to let go of desire fits the criteria, just as much as desiring riches, fame, or power. You're stuck in the same cage, only now it's filled with spiritual decor. What the Buddha was pointing to was subtler, yet also the most obvious thing of all. Something ineffable, something without qualities, yet undeniably present. Something that cannot be realized fully by the mind. Something that's already the case. What he was pointing to was awareness itself, always untainted by the movements of the ego, and realizing that this is your true nature. This is the very center of spirituality. And how do you let go of desire then? You realize that you never were the one desiring. You realize that the ego is just an amalgamation of thoughts, beliefs, and sensations, and that awareness is always entirely untainted by it. In my friend's moments of turmoil, there was no room for the ego. There was only the moment, and the full acceptance of the horrible situation. It's like when you're caught in the rain, and the moment comes when your clothes are so wet, and you're so cold, and you feel the water splashing around between your toes, that resisting simply doesn't serve any purpose anymore. And if you sit in this state for long enough, you may start to feel something profound. You merge with the moment. There is no longer a you watching the scene. You are the scene. The scene and the seeing. It's almost like an optical illusion has been broken. It's not something you can force yourself to see. In fact, force may just obscure it further. But at some point, if you sit with it for long enough, something will shift. Suddenly the illusion breaks, and you realize what you were looking at all along. I'm not suggesting that in my friend's moments of diarrhea he became enlightened, but he did surrender. And had he stayed in that state for long enough and perhaps looked inward just for a moment, he might have had a sudden realization. There is a real mystery at the center of experience. I am reminded of an Exerbia video in which he jokes around with how children probe with the infamous "but why?" or "but what is that?" question. "Daddy, why do things fall to the ground?" Well, it has to do with gravity. But what is gravity? It's a law that says objects attract each other. Since the Earth is bigger than, for example, a ball, it attracts it. But why is it like that? I guess it's something, the physical laws of the universe. But why is it like that? And all of a sudden, the child has brought you to the void. Any line of questioning can be brought to this ineffable, unanswerable point. A question suspended in the air. Why are things the way they are? Why is there anything at all? We may be able to answer how gravity works, although I've heard our understanding is limited, but not why it works. Could it even have been otherwise? We simply don't know. And to even approach the question seems ridiculous. How could we know why things are the way they are? The mind wasn't designed to deal with questions of this nature. After all, the mind grew out of the current conditions of the universe, so to task it with imagining something different seems absurd. And perhaps there isn't even an answer. Only the mind requires an answer. Everything else just is. Thoughts are like shadows dancing on a wall, engaged in some cosmic drama, yet without real substance. And by surrendering fully to the moment, you may even realize that even the mind just is. Yet somehow there is a subjective experience of the moment, including of the mind. But the mind isn't the thing that's conscious, the thing that the moment is presented to. It may claim to be the one seeing, but the fact is, every moment is just known, not by someone, and yet it's undeniably intimate. It just is. Awareness is the one thing that's always here. Yet you can't really describe what it is, where it is, or really anything about it at all. And so here you are, on a spinning rock, wondering what to eat for dinner. Most people wish things were different. A better job, a better face, a better life. And the rest are sitting cross-legged in the Himalayas, or meditating in a city apartment, or gripping the rails of an airplane toilet mid-turbulence, trying not to explode. The sun keeps burning. Atoms keep splitting. Galaxies collide in silence. The universe does not care. Not about your dreams. Not about your pain. Not about your bowels. This is the same universe that bursts stars. Cold, indifferent. And somehow, you are experiencing it. Well, I should say there is experience of it. No one knows why. No one knows how. And no one ever has. And maybe it's a nonsensical question altogether. There's just this. A conscious avalanche of strange content, thrown into a body, into time, into gravity. And if you're lucky, really lucky, you might pierce the illusion before it's too late. Alan Watts once said, "Man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun." And truer words have rarely been spoken. Perhaps it's our very resistance that makes us suffer. The universe will do as it will. Can you learn to see past your resistance? Can you lay down your arms? Even in sorrow there can be delightful enjoyment. Even in intense suffering there can be pleasure. And in a shaking little restroom, 30,000 feet above the ground, a man with diarrhea may be enlightened to the sound of violin